Hello and welcome back to our next lecture. For today's lecture, our topic will be exploring global business or international business. We are going to learn some key terms, some basic concepts, some knowledge related to international business. I will start by saying that you see the total volume of world trade is actually massive. It is estimated to be more than 19.3 trillion in merchandise alone traded every single year. And as more and more firms engage in international businesses, our world economy is actually very fast moving towards becoming an interdependent system, which means that the world economy becoming more and more dependent of each other. And this process is called as globalization. And you see, we also sometimes take for granted the diversity of products that we can buy and use as a result of international business or international trade. Your television, your laptop, your shoes, and maybe even your morning coffee are probably imported. And companies like McDonald's, KFC, Starbucks, Apple, Microsoft, they have seen how important international markets are. And they also know how much it can really impact them. But doing business internationally is not as easy as people thought. It is not easy, to be honest. It requires multiple understanding of different laws, understanding of different behavior of consumers. You also need to expose yourself to more competitors and some other challenges. But small firms, big firms, and companies, they are more and more aware of the benefits of globalization. Some of the benefits of globalization can include like increasing standard of living. You have better access to technologies. You also have access to better business practices. You can also get higher profit and some other benefits as well. So today we are going to learn more on the basic knowledge or concepts of global business. This part here is quite easy. This is just a definition of international business. So to make it easy, international business can be defined as all business activities that involve exchanges across national boundaries. So if you are doing business in Singapore and you are not a Singaporean, for example, that's considered as international business. Likewise, if you do business with in Japan and you are actually in Malaysia, for example, that's already considered as international business. Yeah. Okay, one of the reasons why international business happen is because no country in this world can produce everything that it needs. So every country tend to export what they can produce better or less expensive than other countries, and then they tend to buy or they import what they cannot produce as so efficiently. So this makes sense lah. You export things that you are good at, you import things that you cannot produce or not super efficient. Yeah, this makes sense. To explain this better, we can also turn to an explanation given by the economics called absolute advantage and comparative advantage. This is what this slide is about. So let's take a look at absolute advantage first. By definition, an absolute advantage is the ability of a country to produce a specific product more efficiently than any other countries. I repeat again, absolute advantage is when a country can produce a specific product more efficiently than any other countries. For example, Saudi Arabia has an absolute advantage in the production of crude oil. South Africa has an absolute advantage in production of diamonds. We can take Australia, they have absolute advantage in production of wool. Canada, they have absolute advantage in production of timber. These countries can produce those kind of products better than any other countries in the world. Very easy to remember and understand. Whereas if we look at comparative advantage, it is the ability of a country to produce a specific product more efficiently than any other product. So we are not comparing with any other countries, just between products. Example, if businesses in Malaysia can produce laptop more efficiently than they can produce furnitures, then we would say Malaysia has a comparative advantage in laptop. Okay, it's quite easy also. Goods and services are produced more efficiently when each country specializes in the product that they have comparative advantage. And then from that, they can buy and sell, export and import from one another. This would be the starting point of one of the reasons why international business happen. Alright, let's take a look at the statement on top of the slide here. It says that country will trade. Trade means that they buy and sell. So country will trade when they each have a surplus of the product they are good in or they are specialized in. and then they want something, another product that another country is good in or specialized in. That's where we have buying and selling. And here we look at the definition of exporting and importing. Exporting is quite simple. It is when you sell and you ship raw materials of or any other products to another nation, to another country. Whereas importing is when you purchase, you buy raw materials or product from another country. So which means that when somebody exporting, they will end up receiving the money. And when somebody import, they will end up losing the money because they have to pay. Yeah, this is quite easy. So who's going to get the money? Exporter will get the money. And the thing is, both exporters and importers normally conduct their business in the home country. And export and import is also known, another name is also known as international trade. Sometimes we just use international trade, it means export and import, rather than saying that. Okay. And normally, international trade is the lowest level of involvement in international businesses. But it's also a very good way to learn about international businesses. A lot of major companies, actually, they started with international trade first. Okay, guys, this next part is actually where we look at some of the basic terms related to international business. You can see there's only 3 terms here. It's very easy. The first one is balance of trade. And then we also have trade deficit. We also have balance of payment. Okay, the first one, let me remove the pictures first. Okay, the first one, which is balance of trade. What is balance of trade? It's quite simple. We take the total value of export, we minus the total value of imports. Then whatever the total value is, that's where we call as balance of trade. Balance of trade can tell us that we have a trade deficit or we have trade surplus, which leads us to the second part. Now, from balance of trade, we know whether we have trade deficit or trade surplus. A trade deficit is actually when we import more than we export. So if we import more than we export, we would have a trade deficit. We can also sometimes we call it as a balance of trade is negative, or we can say that it's unfavorable trade. So this treating is quite similar. Unfavorable to who? Unfavorable to us as we import more. And because we import more, when there's trade deficit, it shows that we have to pay the exporter. Yeah. So government, they want to avoid trade deficit and they want to get trade surplus. The next part is actually balance of payment. This is a little bit in bigger terms, bigger concept slightly. Balance of payment is this the total flow of money into a country minus the total flow of money going out of the country over some period of time. Okay, I repeat again, balance of payment is just the total flow of money into our country. We minus that with the total flow of money that go out of the country. So this might include, for example, import and export. So if we import, the money goes out. If we export, the money goes in. Cash flow lah. Investment, if other countries invest or other businesses invest into our country, then we can say that positive balance of payment. If our businesses go and invest to other countries, then we can say balance of payment is negative. So cash in and out, in and out. It can also include, we can also get cash whether it comes in or not by the money spent from foreign tourists. If people come to our country, tourism comes in, they spend all this money, then there's cash coming in. If our people, Malaysian for example, go to other countries, then cash go out. And we can also see payments from foreign governments. If we receive or give aids to foreign governments, or maybe any other receipt and payment. International student come to our country, also cash ins. Our student goes and learn overseas, cash goes out, something like that. So that's balance of payment, total cash flow coming into country minus going out of the country. Let's take a look at the next slide. This next part discuss about how government can affect businesses. Actually, government can affect international businesses in a lot of ways. They can set conditions, they can set rules, they can set regulation for doing business in their country. They can also make it very hard or even stop international companies from doing business in their country. This is where we look at some of the trade restriction that can affect international companies, which is types of trade restriction here. Multiple types. In general, we can split them into tariffs and non-tariff. General type of trade restriction, tariff versus non-tariff. The first one here is where we look at tariff, or we call, there's a different name. Sometimes we call import duty, sometimes we call them tariff, but they are actually essentially the same. They are taxes. Tax on what? Tax on imported product when they enter a country. So an import duty or tariff are normally taxes on imported product when they enter the country. This tax normally has the effect of raising the price of the product in the importing nation. So if a product comes in, we put import duty or tariff or tax, then the product price will increase. Yeah. There are two reasons why government impose tariff. The first one we call as revenue tariff. This is tax imposed to generate income for the government. Okay. The second one is called protective tariff. This one here, protective tariff. These are tax imposed to protect the domestic industry from competition. So this means that keeping the price of product above the price of domestic product. We put protective tariff to protect who? Our own domestic industry from foreign competitors. And another reason why we put tax is also to avoid dumping. Dumping is a negative attempt whereby if a company practice dumping, what they do is that they would export huge amount of quantity of product at prices normally same or lower than the home market price. So a company that is very big and they can afford this kind of things, they would just simply dump their products in huge quantities into another country at a very low price, and people will start to buy those products, essentially killing the domestic players in the country. That's what they want to do. So we can put tariff to avoid dumping. If we put tariff, then their attempt would not be successful. Okay. Okay guys, this next part is what we call as non-tariff barriers. Non-tariff barrier means that this is still barrier to international trade, but it doesn't involve tax. So the first one, there's only 5 here. You can see the first one is import quota. Import quota means limit. It means that import quota means a government would limit how many product can come into their country within a specific period of time. Yeah. For example, only 1 million apples from Australia this year. That's import quota, regardless of price. They don't put tax, but they put a limit. We also have embargo. Embargo here. Embargo is called as the ultimate quota. This is when the government send out orders, give orders to stop trading, stop export, stop import of a particular product, or maybe all product directly with a particular country. So for example, Malaysia embargo Iran, for example. So Malaysia said that, okay, we stop trading with Iran for this year because of these reasons. So, okay. And we also have another one, which is foreign exchange control. Foreign exchange control is just when a government restrict the amount of their own currencies, foreign currencies that can be purchased or sold. I repeat again, foreign exchange control means that government put restriction on amount of foreign currencies that can be purchased or sold. Very straightforward. We also have currency devaluation. Currency devaluation is an attempt when the government maintain their currency at a lower rate compared to their counterpart. Okay, so Malaysia, for example, we want to ensure if we do practice currency devaluation, we always make sure that our currency is always low compared to Singapore dollar, for example. Yeah. And what this does with currency devaluation is that they ensure that the Singaporean products will always be expensive when they come to Malaysia because their currency is expensive compared to us. This is currency devaluation. Next one is bureaucratic red tape. This is actually when the government purposely gives you a lot of unnecessary, burdensome, complicated standards, documents, requirements for you to import the goods. So we would then put all of these unnecessary documentation standards that you have to comply to export your product to Malaysia. And by doing so, if we give you all of these unnecessary things, we hope that we can demotivate you from even selling the product into Malaysia. Okay. Again, why do we do all of this non-tariff barrier? Normally, it's just imposed by government to help or to favor the domestic players instead of foreign supplier or maybe foreign seller. Okay, that's what they do. We move on to the next part of our slide, which is actually the argument for some who support trade restriction like tariff or non-tariff barrier, and some people who does not support the trade restriction. So this is the two sides of the story. Let's take a look at the reasons for trade restriction. Some people say that yes, we can use all of these trade restriction method, whether they're currency devaluation, tariff, or maybe foreign exchange control. We can use them just to make sure that we can balance our nation's balance of payment. So our nation of payment is actually very not balanced. We use that temporarily to make sure that the nation balance of payment is equalized. That's the first argument they said. Secondly, we can also use trade restriction if we want to protect new or weak industries. Those industries that are mature, that are old, that are strong enough, we don't have to use trade restriction against them. We just do it only for weak or new industries. Again, very good argument that makes sense. There's also people who argue we can use trade restriction to protect national security. So if we are dealing with a country that we know is threatening us, or a country that can misuse our technology, or maybe they can use certain chips that we sell and use it against our country, then we should stop selling and buying from them. Okay, again, a very rational argument. Some also said that we can use trade restriction when it comes to protecting the health of citizens. For example, if our countries have been importing certain type of milk, and then later on we know that the milk contains ingredient that can damage the health of our babies, then we can directly embargo them, stop trading with them, or put a limit to the amount of product that we can buy and sell. So when it comes to when it comes to the health of citizens, yes, we can use trade restriction for whatever means. Yeah. Another reason why people use trade restriction sometimes to retaliate. Another country have imposed a trade restriction to us, we can also do it the same way and imposing back trade restrictions to them. Normally we do this by using tariff as one of the standard measure. Yeah. They impose tax on our product, so we impose back tax on their product. This is another argument. Lastly, to protect domestic jobs. Okay. There's also reasons that do not support trade restriction. The first one is that when you put trade restrictions, normally the first outcome is that there's going to be high price for consumers. The consumers end up losing. They have to pay more. It becomes expensive for them. So by removing trade restriction, then it will be cheaper for the consumers. They can get more value for the same amount of product. Okay. Next one, also if you do trade restriction, then you restrict consumers' choices. This is another argument that they made. The third one is misallocation of international resources. People are not using international world resources, are not being utilized efficiently because people are, restricting trading from each other. And then lastly, loss of jobs. In essence, some people manage to protect their jobs, but we are losing good jobs because of the trade restriction. These are some of the arguments given. Quite straightforward, yeah? Okay guys, we have reached the next part, which is also the main part here. We can see that these are methods to enter international business. I'll read them first. We have about, I think, 8 methods that we are going to learn today. It starts with licensing. We also have export and import. We have joint venture. We also have totally owned facilities. Next one, we have strategic alliances. We have trading companies. We have counter trade. And lastly, multinational enterprise. This is what we're going to learn today. Let's take a look at each and every one of them. Okay guys, this is our lecture code for today. Please key in the lecture code for your attendance purposes. Let's move on, yeah, to the next one, which is very important. Okay, let's take a look at the first one, which is licensing. Licensing is between two parties, a licensor and a licensee. The licensor is the owner of the brand. They are the one who created the brand name. The licensor normally would allow the licensee to use their brand name, maybe operating procedures and maybe some of their technology, proprietary technology, to produce the products and then sell it in their own country. Yeah? The licensor allows that. And in return, the licensor or the owner of the brand would ask for some kind of compensation or maybe some royalty, normally in terms of monetary fund. What this does is that it allows the licensor an advantage, which is you can see here, okay, advantage for licensor, whereby the licensor can expand into foreign market with minimum or maybe even no direct investment needed. But it does have some disadvantage. If the licensee is not good, for example, the product image might be damaged if the licensee did not meet up to the standard. Yeah, so this is also hard to control and also hard to monitor sometimes. And also the licensor or the original producer of the product will actually not gain any foreign marketing experience because it's done by the licensee. Okay, that's the first one. Let's take a look at another one. The next method is actually exporting and importing. We have discussed about this before. It's just a quick summary of this. This is when we use import or export merchant to assume the risk of ownership, distribution and sale of a particular product. The advantage of exporting is that this is the one of the lowest risk method to enter any foreign market. So if you want to go to an overseas, the lowest risk is actually the exporting. But it is not as easy as what people might actually think, because there are certain form procedures, people that you need to contact. But for today's class, we do not learn too deep about this. For degree level, then normally would learn more about the letter of credit, bill of lading, etc. Terms related to exporting. Yeah. Next one is joint venture. Joint venture is actually a partnership between firms. Normally foreign firms make a partnership with domestic firms, and then they form this to achieve a specific goal or to operate in a country for a specific period of time. What this does is that when you do joint venture, it gives you some advantage. It gives you a lot of immediate market knowledge and access. Because you are a foreign firm, you have a joint venture with a local firm, this local firm would give you a lot of this knowledge access to you. But it also reduce risk for you, because now you have a partner. The partner can advise you, the partner can do a couple of things for you. It reduces your risk of entering the foreign market. You can also still maintain control over the product attributes because both are working together. Yeah. However, when it comes to joint venture, it comes with a disadvantage. Some of the disadvantage can be a complexity, because when you need to establish agreements between different borders, and when you have different agreements, we have the agreement between different borders. Sometimes when an agreement is violated, it's hard for you to actually to discuss about the terms of settlements, because different laws. Yeah. And even to achieve the agreement also can be quite complicated, because both companies sometimes they have different goal in their mind. Maybe one company, they want to focus on quality, even if it means high cost, and another company might wants to reduce costs. So this is again can be conflicting views. Another disadvantage is that it requires a lot of commitment from all parties. This is not something that you create for fun. When you do joint venture, it requires huge amount of commitment. Normally, a joint venture, we use joint venture to produce and market an existing product in a foreign firm. But sometimes we can also use a joint venture to develop a brand new, entirely new product. So, a couple of things about joint venture. Let's take a look at the next one. This is strategic alliance. Strategic alliance is actually a partnership, special partnership formed to create competitive advantage on a worldwide basis. It is actually quite similar to joint venture, but it's more on worldwide basis. Yeah, and strategic alliance are growing actually at the rate of about 20% per year. More and more companies are actually involved in strategic alliances. And we also have trading companies here. You can see trading companies. Trading company, they actually provide a link between buyer and seller in different countries. A trading company, they are not involved in manufacturing. They do not own the assets related to manufacturing. They buy product in one country at the lowest price, and then they sell it to buyers in another country. So they are the middle person. That's what trading company is. They do not own anything. They buy directly and they sell. Yeah, they don't involve in manufacturing. And they take the title of products and move it from one country to another. Okay, the next one is actually totally owned facilities. You see guys, a company can actually develop their own production. They can also develop their own marketing facilities in another country, or one or more countries. Yeah, this is called as direct investment. When it comes to direct investment, it provides you complete control over your operation. But when it comes to direct investment, like totally owned facilities, since you are developing your own production, you are developing your own marketing facilities, it carries a big risk, greater risk than joint venture. Yeah, the firm is actually what we call as they establish a subsidiary in a foreign country. So direct investment can take two forms. the firm can build or purchase manufacturing or any other facilities in the country, and then they use the facility to produce their own products and market them. Or they maybe the firm purchase an existing firm. They don't build, they actually purchase an existing firm in a different country, and then under an arrangement, it allows them to operate independently of the parent company. Okay. The advantage of this totally owned facility is that, number one, they allow you, when you use totally owned facility, because it's a direct investment, they allow you complete control of every single thing related to operations. Yeah. But like I mentioned just now, the disadvantage is that they give you a lot of risk. If it doesn't work, the amount of money or losses that you have to bear is actually huge. This is why not a lot of companies wants to use totally owned facilities, especially if the foreign country is not stable or they are not that familiar. They are not going to use those kind of investment yet. The last two methods of entering international business are counter trade and multinational enterprise. When it comes to counter trade, it's actually basically an international barter transaction. Instead of using money to buy, you can actually use something else. You can perhaps a country can send off their crude oil in exchange for weapons, or maybe a country can sell off their timbers in exchange for some other raw materials. This is counter trade. You exchange product within the country. Yeah. So you can avoid the need to use foreign currency. Next one is multinational enterprise. Multinational enterprise is when a firm that operates on a worldwide scale. This firm does not have a tie to a specific nation or specific region. For them, the whole world is their playground. Yeah, they do not have super strong loyalty to any particular country. And the multinational firm, actually, they have the highest level of involvement in international business. If you remember just now, I said that exporting have the lowest level of involvement in international business. The opposite of exporting is multinational firm. Yeah, this is when they invest a lot. The last part of our lecture is actually about international economic community. All over the world, countries actually, they have some trade arrangement, they have some agreements, they also build their own communities, and this is what we call as economic communities. There are a lot of economic communities all over the world. We're going to learn some of them. Yeah, and what these international economic communities do is that they help to foster trade. They make it easier, they make it cheaper, they make it workable amongst them. So this is when economic community, by definition, is when they form an organization of nations to promote free movement of resources and product among their own members, and to create a common economic policies. Let's take a look at some of them. The first one that we're going to learn today is actually the European Union. We call them EU, European Union. Last time they were known as Common Market. European Union, or EU, was formed in 1957, actually by 6 countries. The countries were France, Germany, Italy, Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg. These were the 6 countries that started EU. And then the countries in the EU, they have actually expanded. More and more members now have joined the EU. And the countries that are in EU actually have eliminated most quotas and have a standard tariff or tax within their group, within their members. Yeah, and the tax is also very, very low, and some of the taxes have already been eliminated. You see, it benefits all the members of EU. And most of the EU members also, they actually use same currency, which is euro. And this makes it very easy to conduct business between countries. Yeah. And as you can see in this picture here, there are about 27 countries that have joined EU, but now UK have recently left EU. Next one. The next one is called NAFTA. Long name is actually North American Free Trade Agreement. This is actually consists of 3 countries only: US, Canada, Mexico. They are in the same region, so that's why they formed this NAFTA. But although there are 3 countries, they are huge. They have more than 450 million people. market or people in NAFTA alone. So it was actually implemented on 1st January 1994 between, again, US, Canada and Mexico. NAFTA have actually slowly eliminated all tariff on goods produced and traded among United States, Canada and Mexico, and they have actually provided a lot of free trade area by 2009, and Chile is supposed to join in, and hopefully we can see Chile join and become part of NAFTA members. Yeah. We also have CAFTA-DR, which is short term for Central American Free Trade Agreement and Dominican Republic. This is it was created in 2003. CAFTA is created by 2003 by United States and 4 Central American countries, which is El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, and it became CAFTA-DR when the Dominican Republic joined in 2007. So these are the countries that are involved as the international economic community. Again, same thing. Reduce tax rate, make it easy to trade one another, remove quota, make it easy to buy and sell from one another. Next one. The next one is ASEAN. ASEAN stands for Association of Southeast Asian Nations. The ASEAN was created in 1967. The purpose was actually to promote political, economic and social cooperation between their members. And currently ASEAN have about 10 members, and we are the 5th largest trading partner with America. And although ASEAN is considered small in size, but the world have actually seen and recognized the importance of ASEAN. And that's why during ASEAN Summit, we can see a lot of world leaders joining or paying attention to ASEAN. And ASEAN also have successfully managed to create peace and stability in the Asian region. So these are the members here: Brunei, Myanmar, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. Vietnam is the only members that are communist by nature. Okay, you can see here, apart from ASEAN, CAFTA, NAFTA, what else? EU just now, we also have other international organizations like EEA or CIS, Mercosur, OPEC, OECD, but we don't discuss all of them. This is just to tell you that there are a lot of other international economic organizations. Main purpose is quite similar. We just want to make trade easier for the members. Yeah, that's it for today's class, guys. Thank you so much for paying attention. I hope that you have learned something beneficial for today's lecture. See you again. Bye bye.